So earlier today, I was not planning on making this video about Preston Smith and re-looking at this trade after 2 months since it happened. But I was doing some digging into some stats when it comes to the Packers pass rush. And as I was doing it, I found some interesting things regarding the pass rush, but also it made me think about, okay, how has Preston Smith played since he's gone to the Steelers? The reason, the Packers traded him, Preston Smith requested a trade. It sounded like he felt that he was a better fit in their scheme, their 3-4 versus the Packers 4-3, which they switched to this season. And so I was wondering at the time, is it possible maybe he goes to Pittsburgh and because he's in a more familiar scheme that he's able to take his play to another level? I thought it was a possibility, wasn't sure, but now we actually have information on this, and then I'm going to share some very interesting stats regarding the Packers pass rush, looking at the first part of the season to the second part of the season. So Preston Smith, from weeks 1 through 9 when he was on the Packers, before he got traded, according to PFF, he had a pass rush win rate of 8.2%, and he had 10 pressures on 308 snaps and 3 sacks in 9 games. Now, since he was traded to Pittsburgh, in games from weeks 10 through 18 per PFF, he has an 8.2% pass rush win rate, so exactly identical from his time in Green Bay early in the season to now. And he had 7 pressures on 100 snaps. So it looks like probably a few more pressures per snap because 10 on 308 versus 7 on 100. If you sort of, take those snaps in Pittsburgh and try to make them identical the number-wise to early in Green Bay, he would have 21 pressures if he played 300 snaps if the rate stayed the same. But then 1 sack in 8 games. So it's been a pretty similar statistical output for Preston Smith since being traded to Pittsburgh. And so the fact the Packers, got a 7th-round pick in this move, looks like the Packers, I think did well here. And then not only looking at how Preston Smith has played since he got traded, but also how the other Packers pass rushers played in comparison to Preston Smith. Because one of the reasons when Jeff Hafley was talking in one of his press conferences after Preston Smith was traded, and Matt LaFleur had mentioned it as well, they brought up the fact that they believe in some of these other guys lower on the roster. And one guy that Jeff Hafley brought up, and you could tell that he was really hopeful with Brenton Cox. That's a guy. Brenton Cox is the one who Jeff Hafley really seemed to be hopeful about when Preston Smith was traded. And when we look at the Packers pass rushers since Preston Smith has been traded, they're actually 7 Packers defensive linemen have a higher pass rush win rate per PFF. And so, sure, I was upset to lose Preston Smith just because, as a Packers fan, I never want to see any of these guys go, especially guys who have been very impactful in the past for a lot of seasons. It was, I never want to see a guy go like that. But the other Packers pass rushers have played better than him. Brenton Cox has played at an insane level, which I'll get into more in a second. Rashawn Gary has a better pass rush win rate, so does Brenton Cox. Lucas Van Ness has a 14% pass rush win rate compared to Preston Smith's 8.2% since week 10. So a lot of these pass rushers have played well enough to where, trading away Smith, having other guys come in, fill in, play more snaps, it's really gone well. And so honestly, I don't think you can, fault the Packers for trading him at all. He did want to get traded. So I give this an A+ because you don't lose production. You get an extra draft pick. It's, not a massive draft pick, but it's something. So that's sort of my thought on the trade there. And now let me get into the Packers pass rushers in the second part of the season. So I put this out on X/Twitter earlier today. So if you want some more stats like this, feel free to follow me there at LukeBeller3. But I said this, the Packers pass rush has been drastically better the second half of the season. From weeks 1 through 9, the Packers had 1 player with a greater than 10% pass rush win rate. From weeks 10 through 18, the Packers had 5 players with a greater than 10% pass rush win rate, and that's from PFF players with at least 50 snaps. So from 1 guy over 10% to 5 guys over 10%. So this pass rush has really taken it to another level, and I do wonder if a big part of that is just that these guys have gotten familiar with the scheme, familiar with Jeff Hafley. I think early on for a guy like Rashawn Gary, he was sort of adapting to the new defense, and now he's played a lot better. And honestly, the biggest positive here from the Packers pass rush has been Brenton Cox. If we look at him in the past since week 10 through 18, he has the highest pass rush win rate per PFF at 17%. Then we have Rashawn Gary, 16.4%. Devontae Wyatt, 16.3%. Lucas Van Ness, 14%. Kenny Clark, 11.2%. And then down from there. Unfortunately, guys like Kinsley Enagbare has not been great, 6.8% there. But Brenton Cox has been playing like one of the best pass rushers in the NFL when he has played. He hasn't played a ton of snaps. I still think the Packers should up the amount of snaps that he's been taking. He did miss the past week with an injury, so hopefully he'll be back this game because he's been insanely productive. But to get him as an undrafted player in 2023 and have him producing better than anyone else in this team, I mean, that's a solid find by the Packers. And here's another very interesting stat. In the final 6 weeks of the season for the Packers, they have 3 defensive linemen in the top 26 in pass rush win rate. That's per PFF. This is interior defensive linemen and edge rushers with people playing at least 30 snaps. Brenton Cox in the NFL in the past 6 weeks among all defensive linemen, the 6th highest pass rush win rate at 21.4%. So he's literally playing as one of the best defensive players pass rush wise in the NFL. And then Devontae Wyatt's 12th at 19.6%. Rashawn Gary 26th at 15.9%. So the Packers have drastically gotten better with their pass rush, which is a good sign. There still have been games where they aren't very productive, but for the most part, it's been a lot better. I think it will be a tough task against the Philadelphia Eagles because of how solid their offensive line is, but hopefully Brenton Cox will be healthy, and hopefully he'll be able to be productive in this upcoming playoff game. But those are my thoughts for today. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter/X at LukeBeller3. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.